What is up, all you team roping fanatics? It is Kaitlin Gustave here with another episode of The Short Score. This one is brought to you by US Roper. We have a special guest, and that is the one and only Coy Rahlmann. He is 20 years old from Ellsinore, Missouri, and he is pretty wicked with a head rope. Just for some background information, he won the Ram National Circuit Finals Rodeo Championship title in 2020 with Ryan VonAhn, and that was when the rodeo had to move to Greeley due to COVID-19. He's already got some big wins under his belt. He's roping with Douglas Rich, and just this past weekend they added a lot of money to their earnings. They won the Yellowstone River Roundup. They were co-champions there with Brenton Hall and Chase Tryon, and each of those guys added over $3,000 to their earnings. They also won the average at the Canby, Oregon Rodeo. They were 9-7 on two head, and that paid over $3,000. Plus, they got some round money at that rodeo. And then they placed in the second round at the Caldwell Night Rodeo as well. So they're racking in the money. As this episode goes out live, they are leading the Kennewick Rodeo, that is the Horse Haven Kennewick Roundup in Kennewick, Washington. They're leading the average there right now, and they're also leading the second round. So stay tuned. I can't wait to see how they end up at that rodeo. But enough of me telling you about Coy. Enjoy this special episode of The Short Score with Coy Rahlmann. We had a great conversation about the year, his past, his horses, and more, and what he expects of himself. So enjoy and let us know what you think. This episode is brought to you by US Roper. We as ropers spend a lot of time on the road. Join US Roper for 24/7 coverage for both you and your equine athlete. US Roper provides nationwide coverage for your vehicles and your horse trailers. From towing to flat tires to emergency farrier and vet referral, we have a plan for you. Let us help you get to the jackpot today. Don't forget to follow along with us on Facebook and Instagram. Visit www.usroper.com to join and get protected before your next trip.
This is Chelsea Schaefer, and this is Season 4 of The Score. You all have listened to this podcast 750,000 times, and we are here in Season 4 to bring you even more of what you love.
Well, hello, Coy. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I guess you're sitting in Kennewick right now. How is that going for you guys?
It's going awesome. We're just, seems like we're getting pretty hot right now, so we're just trying to keep that going. Our first one was pretty strong. Jackson and Marty had him at Hermiston.
Mm-hmm.
We knew he was going to be decently strong, so we just tried to make the best run we could on him. We were 6-1. It seemed like there was a lot of mid-5 to mid-6 runs. There was a whole bunch of catches from about a 5-5 to a 6-5.
Mm-hmm.
Driggers and Junior went 4-9. They won the round. They made the best run by half a second. And then everybody else, like I said, they were just kind of mid-5 to mid-6. Steers are fairly uneven. The barrier's 2 over. So everybody just kind of went survival mode,
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys are currently leading the second round, right? And the average?
Yes, ma'am. There was 20-something teams out that ran their second one in the slack this morning. As of now, we're winning the second round in the average.
That's exciting. And that's what I was going to say. I feel like you guys kind of got on a little heater, especially after last weekend. So that's super exciting, especially right now. I feel it's kind of crunch time for you guys.
Yes, ma'am. We've had some good weeks recently, especially the week. We really picked it at the week a lot, and in Sargent, I think we won like 5,600. Last week we won 9,800 and some change altogether. Hopefully, we're starting it off with a bang this week. So,
yeah, that's exciting. I know you're like 23rd in the standings right now.
Yes, ma'am. I'm 23rd. I think Doug's like 19th. The Heelan seems to be a little softer than the head, and I think he's maybe 5,000 out, and I think I'm right at 9,000 out. So
yeah. Yeah, I was going to say Tate Kirchenschlager is 15th with 49,000 and you have 40,000. So how, we'll talk about last weekend here in a second, but how are you feeling right now there's just barely over a month left in the regular season?
I catch myself kind of thinking about that with the wrong point of view. I catch myself thinking, putting too much pressure on myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to just keep my head down and keep doing what we're doing, keep catching a lot of steers. Me and Doug have roped together a lot, and it seems like at times we both are roping good enough that if we just go do our job, it's usually good enough. So I'm trying to just keep my head down, keep turning steers for him, letting him do what he does, and see where it puts us,
Yeah. Yeah, and so real quick, obviously, you're roping with Douglas Rich. What is your guys' background story? I know you used to rope with Ryan VonAhn, and that's who you won the Ram National Circuit Finals title in 2020 with?
Yep.
In Greeley, when they had it in Greeley because of COVID. Kind of talk about, we're going to jump back for a second, talk about that relationship with Ryan and why, what made that partnership end and how did you get with Doug?
Well, when I was younger, 16, 17, and I always was around Ryan at the amateur rodeos and stuff there around Missouri, and Ryan had always told me, a lot of people knew it, some people didn't, but Ryan headed, and Ryan heads great. Ryan's a very good switch ender. He's a very ropey guy, and he had always told me, hey, when you're ready to circuit rodeo, if you want to go to the Great Lakes Circuit, he said, I don't want to rope against you. I want to rope with you. He said, so I'm going to sell all my head horses and buy some heel horses when you turn 18 if you want. And at first I just kind of laughed it off. And then I was like, that might not be a bad idea. My permit year, rope with a guy that's circuit rodeoed up there for quite a while and done this and that. He can help me with my heading at times and, whatever. So, like that fall before I turned 18 in March, that fall or so, I was hitting him up and I said, hey, if you want to do it, let's do it. So that spring of 2019, I got my permit and, we lit him up that year.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome getting roped with Ryan. He became one of my very best friends. I love his wife and his two little girls. I lived there at their place in Palmyra. And it was fun. I roped with Ryan last year also. We kind of went out a little bit at the beginning of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little bit hard to play catch up. We left in July to head to Cody with no money won coming off the winter pretty much and stuff. So it was a little hard for us to catch up. I think we rodeoed for about a month and then come home and made sure we made the circuit finals and ended up winning the circuit for a second year and got to go to Kissimmee and stuff. So that was a great partnership. I wouldn't change it for the world. I think a lot of Ryan and his wife and his family, they were very good to me and I had a lot of fun with them. But going back to Doug, I'm from southeast Missouri, and all of the slides and littler amateur rodeos and stuff around there, you kind of, where I'm from, the southern Illinois and western Tennessee, western Kentucky, northern Arkansas, like it's all kind of one circle on the map.
Mm-hmm.
It's all not very far from each other. So I grew up with Doug being from Illinois. We only grew up a few hours from each other, but when I was little, Doug was in high school and first getting into college and stuff, but
mm-hmm. Doug
was still around there quite a bit, sliding and amateur rodeoing. And Doug has roped amazing since he was, a young kid. And so I always, was around him, roped with him a little bit around there and stuff. And then he moved to Texas and bounced around a little bit, ended up at Paul Lee's house. And Paul and I are very close, and with me staying over there and stuff some, at the beginning of this year, we both had partners and stuff, just wasn't working out, and he hit me up about roping, and I said, yeah, we'll do it. And the first weekend we roped, we won maybe second at Waxahachie, and then we ended up doing really good at St. Angelo, and we won Weatherford, and our summer started off a lot cold, actually. We were very hit and miss until like we placed in the first round at Estes and mm-hmm. then waited a little bit, placed in the first round at Sheridan. And it was just kind of off and on. And then when we got hot, and it's been really good for us here the last few weeks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've enjoyed watching you guys. You guys do rope very phenomenal together. So that's a great partnership you guys have going right now. And like you said, you guys kind of got hot in the last few weeks. I know last weekend, you guys are co-champions with Brenton Hall and Chase Tryon and Billings. And then you won the average in Canby, Oregon. Kind of tell me about those runs.
Well, we started off at Caldwell that week. Had a little tough rush of luck in the first round. The next day we went to Canby. Showed up over there, the steers from Cheyenne, so we didn't really know. I mean, we knew they'd been jackpotted on a little bit. Some guys were trying to look at the Cheyenne sheets, and I just felt like there wasn't a whole lot of sense in that because they'd been roped a little since then, and what they were going to do behind a 30-foot score is a lot different than what they were going to do behind a normal, neck rope setup.
Yeah.
We were second out, first steer loped, and I remember I was sitting there with Big A, and I said, "What do you think?" And he just kind of shrugged his shoulders. He doesn't really say much. And I was like, "Well, this is great." So I backed in the box, just hoping mine was going to be like the first one, and he was. And I got a great start, and I just made sure I caught, and Dougie did work on him, and we won second in the first round. And we come back that night, and we had Brenton and Chase's steer, and we knew he was kind of a little wishy-washy. He'd go left and then back right and stuff. So we just tried to go with the same game plan to be aggressive on him and don't let him kind of psych us out. And that's what we did. We ended up placing in the second round also on down there a little ways and winning the average. So that was pretty good. And we went back over to Caldwell and ran our second one at Caldwell. We had a good run. We knew that steer. We actually had that steer the first time at Deadwood. And then we'd watched him go there, and we knew he was good. So we just made as good a run as we could on him there and won split third like 3 or 4 ways at Caldwell in the second round on that one. We were 5 flat at Gooding. I think we were 1 out. That was a very tough one-header.
Yeah.
And then we went to Moses Lake and Billings. Didn't do any good at Moses Lake, but we were fortunate enough to split the win at Billings. So,
yeah, that is... I mean, unfortunately, you can't win them all, but that's not a bad weekend.
Right.
That's awesome. And so, coming off, you're raking in some money. I want to step back a little bit to talk about some big money that you and Doug had a chance to win. And that was at the WCRA Days of 47 in Salt Lake City. Which, if people know or don't know, you guys did make it out of your set to go to that final round, and you guys made the tough decision not to rope in the final round at WCRA. Kind of explain that. What was your guys' reasoning for that?
Well, that was a very busy week. I think that was either the second to last or the last week in July. I don't remember. But that was a very busy week of rodeo, and you had Nampa, Ogden, Spanish Fork, Salt Lake. There might have been another one, too, that we didn't enter maybe. But it was a very busy week of rodeoing, And at the time, we were just starting to win, And so we were still about 10 to 12,000 out of the finals, and we were just starting to really catch and do good. We were placing at Ogden. We were pretty much guaranteed third at Ogden at the time, and we made a great run at Salt Lake and made it out of our set, and we got to Spanish, and we both kind of popped the question at each other, like, well, what do you want to do? And I don't care. What do you want to do? And we're like, okay, well, we'll worry about it. We've got to catch this one at Spanish this morning anyways. And for people who don't know, the way some of the tour rodeos work is you run one that morning in the slack at 9 o'clock. They'll have it in sets of about 20 to 30 guys. And you run one that morning. Every event does. And the top 10 or 12 come back to the perf that night. If you don't make the top so many, you just come right back in the slack. So our thoughts on it were, well, if we don't do good, we're not going to have to worry about it. We'll just come right back up in the slack and run our second one or whatever. If we do good, that's good,
Yeah.
So we show up to Spanish that morning, and we made a great run. We were 4-9, and Spanish was kind of weird because the first round was pretty tough. I don't think 4-9 got any money in the first round at Spanish, but it seemed like a lot of guys were snake bitten in the second round. The second round ended up being pretty easy, and the average, I say pretty easy compared to the first round. And the average, as long as we were some kind of 5-4, we could be a half a second slower than our first one and almost guarantee ourselves about 6,500 between the average and the second round and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we just, after we roped, we sat down and we kind of had a team meeting, and we're like, we can go to Salt Lake City and win 12-5, which is amazing. We're grateful for the opportunities that WCRA is presenting us Cowboys with all this money and these rodeos around the country. But we're also, when we left in June, our goal was to make the NFR. You know, when we left in June, we told ourselves we're making it. And so 6,500 and one whack towards the world standings is a pretty good whack, you know? And so that's what we told ourselves, is we were like, 12-5 is awesome, but when you're this close, you're 10,000 away from making the NFR, and 6,500 of it is fixing to come tonight if you just make a good solid run. So we need to probably stay here and worry about making an NFR. You know, otherwise it might come down to that at the end of the year, and you're going to really wish you would have. So we made the executive decision to stay at Spanish and rope our second one. Unfortunately, we ended up being a little longer than we wanted to. Barely, I mean, we won $1,000 there, which was still pretty good. But if we had it to do all over again and put in the same scenario, obviously hindsight's 20/20, but I would probably do it again, because look at right now, Doug's only 5,000 out of making the top 15 right now. So
yeah, that's I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like you guys made the best decision for you guys as a team, but it's a hard decision to make, because either way, you have a chance for some big money, whether it's going to count just to take home and say you won it, or it's going to count and you're going to be in that little yellow building at the end of the year.
Absolutely. So, yes, ma'am. Very,
very tough. But yeah, I'm glad you explained that. I know it's a hard call to make sometimes.
It was hard. I don't want anybody to think that it wasn't a hard decision to make. It was a lot of us calling guys we looked up to, guys that we think of as almost mentors or something, that have been around for a long time and rodeoed, and asking what they would do, or if they've ever been put in that situation or whatever, because it was a very hard decision.
Yeah, so. Definitely. Well, thank you for explaining that, Coy. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so moving on, I know we've kind of talked a little bit, but I know you have a new horse in your string, along with your great horse, Charlie. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am. Kind
of tell me about your horsepower you have going right now.
Well, there's a couple people I almost have to give a shout out to on that horse. So there was a buddy of mine from back home in Missouri that's a little bit older than me. He's probably a little closer to Doug's age. He's circuit rodeoed and amateur rodeoed on him for a long time. His name's Dylan Rucker, and he heads good, and he always rode that horse, and everybody always noticed that horse because he's a pretty horse and he was good. And Dylan, a while back, had decided he didn't want to rope anymore, and one of my other very great buddies, Jeremy Hinman, bought him a couple months ago. And Jeremy is who my horse Grit came from, that Colby Lovell rode in a couple rounds at the NFR and stuff. And Jeremy ropes good, and he was going to some amateur rodeos and stuff. And before Sydney, Iowa, Paul and I had decided to go stay at his parents' house in Missouri for a few days before Sydney. And when we were there, we went and roped with our friend Jeremy and stuff that owned this horse, and I ran one steer on him. And I said, man, I like this horse a lot. And so he had priced him to me, and I left, and I was headed to Sydney, and I was thinking on all the ways I could try to get him bought. And I had another horse that I did good at San Angelo on and stuff, and one of my buddies wanted him, and so I sold him to one of my buddies, and I called Jeremy, and I said, hey, I'll take that horse. And I bought him just off one steer, and I got him and ran a couple practice steers on him, and that was I picked him up with the Spicer grip, ran a couple practice steers on him, and the next week was Lawton and Sykeston, and my first live action steer was at Lawton on him. We won second in the first round, placed in the average at Lawton. I took him to Sykeston. We won the first round, won like third in average at Sykeston. So, and ever since then, that horse it seems like I do going on him every time I ride him. He was a really big blessing to me because I owe a lot of the credit to him on how much Doug and I have gained in the last few weeks, as far as money and in the standings, because he's been a huge factor in that. So
that's exciting. That is so cool when stuff like that happens. And like you said, you kind of got to give your horses credits, because as you guys are throwing ropes and doing all the things, I mean, you couldn't do it without that horsepower under you. So.
Oh yeah.
And what do you call that horse?
Well, both the guys that had him before me just call him Blue. Sorry, just Blue. Pretty original for Blue Roan, I guess.
Blue. Can't change it. Bad luck, right?
That's right.
And Charlie's still in the trailer? He's your number one horse, right? Or?
Oh, yeah. It seems like I've been riding the Blue a little bit more, but yep, Charlie's still in the trailer. That's what I rode in the second round at Caldwell, and I'll probably ride him over at the one-header in Bremerton Thursday, and so I can't leave the house without him in the rig. But, yep, he's still in the trailer. It just seems like lately I got so much confidence, and I'm on such a roll on the Blue, it's hard to get off.
Yeah, no, it's hard. Once you get on a roll, it is hard to switch things back up.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Coy, I know, obviously I want to kind of move into some motivational stuff. You're obviously so young and at the beginning of your career. What is some advice or motivational tips that you could give to young ropers that are kind of thinking that this is the lifestyle that they want to pursue?
Well, I don't ever want them to think it comes easy. Even if it seems like you're really winning at your level, or in the junior levels, or if you're a team roper and you're really winning in the numbered ropings, that's great, keep it up, that's awesome. But I don't want them to think it ever comes easy, because when you get out here on the big road, if there's 100 teams, at least 75 or 80 of them are supposed to be out here, and they come out here with a purpose. And so I think it's very important that they get around the right people at a young age, get around good mentors, people that know how to win inside and outside the arena. Really keep a strong work ethic, and don't let the bad things distract you from your end goal. Yeah,
that is perfect. I like that a lot. That's what I don't think people realize how tough it is out there. And like you said, the top 70 to 100 teams are at these rodeos, and they're not just 70 to 100 just whatever teams. They're the best of the best team ropers in the world.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Well, perfect, Coy. I appreciate you giving us that motivational tip, and I look forward to seeing what you and Doug accomplish in these next few weeks, the next month, and hopefully you guys are NFR bound.
I hope you're right.
Awesome. Well, good luck and safe travels down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you again, Coy, for joining me on this episode. I always enjoy talking to Coy. He's one of my good little buddies, so it's fun to chit-chat with him, especially about team roping. And you guys, while you're at it, don't forget this episode is brought to you by US Roper. And while you're at it, go ahead and leave us a rating and review. What that does is help people find our podcast, The Score, and then, the more people that hear about it, the better. Leave us a rating and review. Let us know what you're liking, what you're not liking, what you want to hear more of. We want to know. So go ahead and do that anywhere you listen to podcasts at. Enjoy your week, and we will chat at you soon.